So, you're looking to turn that passion for making games into a real career, right? Well, the Unity Certified Associate exam is your first big step. Today, we're going to break down the absolute core foundations you need to know to pass it. Think of it like a builder's journey. We'll look at the blueprint for success, the digital tools you'll need to master, and the golden rules that'll keep your project from, completely falling apart.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll get into why this certification is such a big deal for your career. Then, we're going to get our hands dirty in the digital workspace itself. After that, we'll cover the rules for managing your assets, your raw materials, and, super importantly, what to do when things go wrong, because they will. And finally, we'll wrap up by checking out the essential toolkit that all the pros have.
All right, first up, your path to pro. This isn't just about cramming for a test. It's about laying down the blueprint for a real successful career in development. So, what's the big deal with this certification? It's all about job readiness. It's the proof that shows you don't just know the theory, you have the practical hands-on skills to actually join a professional team and start contributing right away. Honestly, it's your official entry ticket into the industry.
Okay, next, let's step into our digital workshop, the Unity Editor. Getting comfortable in here is probably the single most important part of building anything, so let's get you familiar with the main tools of the trade.
This right here, this is your command center, and getting the flow between these windows is everything. You build your world visually in the scene view, and then you pop over to the game view to see what the player sees. The hierarchy shows you a neat list of every single object in your scene. And when you click on one of those objects, the inspector lights up, letting you tweak all of its properties. Meanwhile, all your files, your models, your sounds, your scripts, they all live down in the project window. Mastering the dance between these five is the absolute key to working fast and smart.
Now, all those things you see listed in the hierarchy window, every single one is what's called a game object. It is the absolute most fundamental building block in Unity. It doesn't matter if it's your main character, a tiny pebble on the ground, or a light source, it all starts its life as a game object, which is basically a container for all the components that make it do stuff.
Oh man, this slide, this highlights a lesson that every, and I mean every, Unity developer learns the hard way. You hit that play button, you start tweaking things. You move an object just so, you get the color perfect. And then you stop the game and poof, it's all gone. You have to burn this into your brain. Play mode is for testing your changes, not for making them.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about managing your raw materials. A project is only as good as its assets, right? The models, textures, sounds, all that stuff. So, let's go over the golden rules for keeping them organized and, more importantly, working correctly.
Good asset management is so much more than just having tidy folders. You really need to understand how Unity keeps track of every single file with these special little files called .meta files, the proper way to import new stuff, and how to use the package manager to add powerful tools without making a mess of your project. This little file, the .meta file, is the unsung hero of your entire project. Seriously, anytime you add an asset, Unity creates this file right next to it. It holds a totally unique ID, a GUID, and that's how a script knows which character model to talk to or how a material knows which texture to use. It is the glue holding your entire project together, which is why, and listen closely here, you must always let Unity manage these files. Don't touch them in your file explorer.
Which, of course, leads us to a very important and kind of scary question. If this tiny file is the secret glue holding everything together, what happens if you accidentally break that connection by, say, deleting it or moving a file around in your regular file explorer instead of inside Unity?
Well, let's answer that question right now in Section 4, Solving the Inevitable Errors, because believe me, sooner or later, every single person runs into the dreaded missing reference error, and it almost always tracks back to a problem with asset management. When you delete a .meta file outside of Unity, you've basically just changed an asset's address without telling anyone where it moved. Unity completely loses track of it, and all the links to it break. Any special import settings you had? Gone. And if you're on a team using something like Git, you've just created a massive headache for everybody. It's a real mess.
But okay, don't panic. It's usually fixable. Here's the game plan. First, if you just moved a file, try moving it back to where it was. If that doesn't do the trick, you can right-click on the folder inside Unity and force it to re-import everything. And if all else fails, you can go into the inspector, find that ugly missing slot, and manually drag the correct asset back in. It's like reconnecting wires one by one.
All right, for our final section, let's talk about the power tools. These two features are absolutely essential for a professional workflow, and they're going to streamline your whole development process. First up, we've got the Unity Package Manager, or UPM. Now, instead of just downloading files from the internet and dumping them into your assets folder, the UPM gives you a super clean, official way to add features. These packages can be anything from powerful camera tools like Cinemachine to advanced UI elements like TextMesh Pro.
Honestly, using the UPM is one of those things that just screams professional project. It keeps your work lightweight because you only add what you need. It makes updating or even rolling back to an older version of a tool incredibly simple. And maybe best of all, it keeps all that complex code outside of your main assets folder, which just cuts down on clutter so much.
And your second essential power tool is the console window. If the Unity editor is your workshop, think of the console as the diagnostic computer you plug into your project. It's a direct line of communication that tells you exactly what's going on under the hood. The console basically talks to you in three main ways. A log is just an informational message, no big deal. A warning is a yellow flag, a heads up that something isn't quite right and might cause bugs later. But an error, that's a red flag. That's a critical problem that you need to fix, like right now. Learning to read and react to these is the absolute core skill of debugging.
And this is the really cool part. The console isn't just a place where Unity tells you it's wrong. It's an active tool you can use. With simple commands like debug.log, you can write your own messages to the console. You can track variables, check if a piece of code is actually running. It's how you hunt down bugs. You're not just listening to the project, you're having a conversation with it.
And that just about brings us to the end. We've gone over the professional blueprint, we've toured the digital workspace, and we've geared you up with the essential tools for success. The foundation is all set. So really, the only question left is, what are you going to build first?